Hey man, there comes a time when your silence becomes louder than her words, when your absence becomes the one thing she can't escape. You might not realize it right now, but there's a version of you she will one day see, and it will haunt her. It won't be when you're begging for her attention or explaining your worth. It'll be later, much later, when you've stopped caring, when you've stopped checking her social media, stopped wondering who she's with, stopped replaying what went wrong. That's when the shift happens, when she finally sees what she threw away. Because nothing breaks a woman's ego faster than watching the man she left behind evolve into everything she secretly hoped he would be, but without her. At first, she won't notice. She'll convince herself she's moved on. She'll distract herself with noise, new people, new places, new attention. She'll laugh louder, post more, pretend she's never been happier. But the thing about pretending is, it's exhausting. And the thing about losing a man of depth is it's permanent. The kind of peace, security, and presence you gave her, she'll try to find that again, but it won't exist in the world she's running toward. She'll meet men who talk bigger but act smaller, men who impress her with flash, not substance, men who take from her what you once gave freely. And slowly, it'll dawn on her. You weren't just another guy, you were the standard, the calm in the storm, the one who meant it when he said he cared. But by then, you'll be too far gone to even look back. When she sees you again, maybe in person, maybe online, she won't say anything. She'll just stare a little longer than she should. She'll notice the glow up, but not just the physical one. She'll see the calm in your eyes, the steadiness in your posture, the quiet strength that only comes from surviving heartbreak without becoming bitter. You'll carry yourself differently now, like a man who no longer seeks validation from anyone. You'll walk into rooms with that quiet confidence that can't be faked because it was forged in pain. Every tear you once shed turned into discipline. Every sleepless night became fuel. Every rejection built your resilience. And now she's witnessing the result, a man reborn from the fire she started. She'll remember the little things, the way you listened, the way you understood her, even when she didn't deserve it, the patience you had when she was distant, the warmth in your voice when she was cold. She'll start realizing that the things she once took for granted were rare, that your consistency wasn't boring, it was love in its truest form. She'll remember how she used to feel safe around you, how your presence made her chaos quiet. But it's too late now. She's standing on the outside, looking in at a man who no longer belongs to her, and that's when regret hits her in waves, not because she misses you, but because she finally understands the kind of man she lost. Regret doesn't hit her all at once. It creeps in slowly. It starts when she's with someone new and realizes she has to beg for the same effort you once gave naturally. It hits when she sends a text and waits hours for a reply, remembering how you always made time. It hits when she realizes that no matter how much attention she gets, it never feels like connection. Because deep down, she knows what real connection feels like. She had it with you, but she traded that depth for validation. She wanted excitement instead of peace, attention instead of love. And now she's learning that thrill fades fast, but real presence, that lingers forever. Meanwhile, you're not sitting around thinking about her anymore. You've evolved. You're busy building, busy healing, busy becoming. You've turned your pain into purpose. You've stopped chasing what's temporary and started creating what's timeless. The gym has become therapy. Your silence has become strength. You've surrounded yourself with peace, ambition, and people who actually value you. You've stopped explaining yourself to those who never cared to listen. And without even realizing it, you've become the man she always claimed she wanted. Confident, focused, detached, and unstoppable. Only now, you don't need her approval to feel that way. You're doing it for yourself. That's when she starts checking in, not with a message, but with curiosity. She'll linger on your stories. She'll rewatch your posts. She'll ask mutual friends how you're doing, trying to sound casual, but it won't be curiosity. It'll be fear. Fear that you've truly moved on. Fear that you no longer care. Fear that she's been replaced not by another woman, but by your peace. Because when a woman loses her hold over your emotions, she loses everything. Her power, her pride, her illusion of control. She'll realize that you were never obsessed with her. You were loyal to the connection. And when she broke that trust, she didn't just lose your love, she lost access to your soul. It'll eat at her when she sees how well you're doing. Not because she wants you back, but because she'll know she can't reach you anymore. You've transcended the version of yourself she once knew. You're no longer the man who begged, over-explained, or tolerated disrespect. You've become the man who says nothing, because silence now carries more power than any argument ever could. You've become the man who doesn't seek revenge, because success is revenge enough. And deep down, she'll know that everything you've become, you could have been with her. But she chose chaos. She chose attention. She chose ego. And now she has to live with the truth that her choices built the man she can't have. But here's the poetic part. You won't even hate her. You'll outgrow her. And that's worse than hatred. Hatred means she still has power. Indifference means she doesn't. You'll wish her peace, silently. You'll smile if you cross paths, not out of interest, but closure. Because by now, you understand that everything she did was necessary. Her rejection was your redirection. Her leaving was your awakening. Her betrayal was the push you needed to build boundaries. You don't resent her, you thank her, because she forced you to meet the man you were always meant to become. And that's the ultimate twist. She thought she broke you, but she built you. She thought she was walking away from weakness, but what she left behind was a man in transformation. She thought your silence was defeat, but it was rebirth. She thought you were done, but you were just beginning. And now, as she watches you rise, as she sees you becoming everything she ever wanted, everything she never believed you could be, she'll feel a quiet ache that no one will ever see. That's not punishment, that's life showing her the cost of taking a good heart for granted. Because when a man of depth walks away and truly heals, there's no going back. You didn't lose her, man, she lost you. As time passes, that ache inside her doesn't fade, it deepens. The longer she goes without your presence, the more she realizes how different her world feels without it. The temporary distractions she used to numb herself no longer work. The validation she once chased now feels hollow. Even when she's surrounded by attention, she can't shake that quiet emptiness. It's because she's realizing something every woman eventually does. The energy of a grounded man is irreplaceable. You didn't just fill her time, you elevated her sense of security. You didn't demand her submission, you inspired it. You didn't manipulate her emotions, you made her feel safe enough to be real. And now she's surrounded by men who either worship her looks or fear her attitude, but none who make her feel seen. That's when nostalgia starts clawing its way back in. It'll start in small invisible moments. A song comes on that reminds her of you. A certain scent catches her off guard. A random memory surfaces when she least expects it. Maybe the way you laughed, the calm in your voice, the way you'd listen without judgment. She'll try to brush it off, but it'll linger. Because the mind can lie, but the soul remembers. It remembers the peace you brought. The way your presence made her feel grounded when her emotions spun out of control. She'll scroll past your picture and feel something unfamiliar, longing, mixed with regret, mixed with shame. She'll remember the man she once dismissed, and the irony will hit her that the same man she undervalued is now the kind of man every woman desires. Eventually, she'll try to reach out, subtly, almost testing the waters. Maybe a harmless text, maybe a reaction to your story, maybe a random excuse to start a conversation. She'll want to see if the door's still open, but this time, you won't take the bait. You'll respond, if at all, with calm brevity. No bitterness, no excitement, no desperation, just peace. And that's what will shake her the most, because she'll remember how easily she could once control your emotions, how a single word, a single text could change your mood. Now it doesn't. You've become unreadable. You've become untouchable. That silence, that lack of emotional reaction will say everything. You've moved on, and she can feel it in her bones. You see, what breaks a woman more than rejection is irrelevance. The moment she realizes she no longer affects you, that's when reality hits her hardest. Because women don't always want you back. They just want to know they could have you back. They crave reassurance that the door is still open, that the power still exists. But when she sees that door firmly closed, when she realizes that your world didn't fall apart without her, something inside her fractures. She starts questioning her worth, her choices, her image of control. The same independence she once flaunted now feels lonely. The same attention she once basked in now feels empty. Because power is only intoxicating when someone else believes in it and you don't anymore. Now, she'll try to rewrite history in her head. She'll tell herself you were too serious, too quiet, too distant. She'll project her guilt as your flaw, because admitting that she lost a good man would mean confronting her own reflection, and that's the one thing she fears most. But the truth always catches up. Late at night, when her phone is silent and the world stops spinning, that's when the truth gets loud. She'll remember how you made her feel without words, how your consistency made her feel safe, how your attention made her feel seen, how your patience made her feel valued. And she'll realize she traded all that for a thrill that didn't last. That's when the guilt starts turning into grief, not because she misses the relationship, but because she misses the version of herself that existed when she was loved by you. But you, by this point, are far beyond her reach. You've evolved into a man of purpose, the kind of man who doesn't chase, doesn't cling, doesn't settle. You've learned that peace is far more valuable than presence, that not every love story deserves a sequel. You've stopped replaying the past because you're too focused on building your future. You're investing in yourself, your health, your craft, your mission. The same energy you once wasted trying to prove your worth is now fueling your evolution. And the irony, she'll notice. She'll see your growth in your confidence, in your achievements, in your silence, and it'll sting. Because she'll know she could have been part of that journey, but she chose to leave right before the transformation. The more you rise, the more her pride falls, because now every success you achieve becomes a reminder of what she gave up. Every milestone, every new chapter, every moment of happiness without her, it all chips away at her ego. Not because she hates seeing you win, but because deep down she'll remember when she doubted your potential, when she thought you'd never move on, never evolve, never find better. Watching you become everything she didn't believe you could be. That's her quiet punishment. You're not her loss because you're happy. You're her loss because you're at peace. And peace, for a woman who thrives on control, feels like the loudest goodbye. And that's what makes your evolution so powerful. It's not revenge. It's not about making her jealous or proving her wrong. It's about reclaiming your power. You stopped seeking closure from someone who was never capable of giving it. You stopped expecting empathy from someone who couldn't even understand her own emotions. Instead, you turned inward. You found meaning in solitude. You discovered that real healing doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself. You found your strength, not in what she said, but in what you stopped saying. You became dangerous, not because you hurt others, but because you learned to walk away without anger. Eventually, she'll realize something tragic, that you were her test, not her trophy. Life brought you into her world to see if she could recognize a man of value, and she failed. She mistook your patience for weakness, your love for control, your silence for indifference, and now she's surrounded by noise, but no meaning. She's got attention, but no affection. She's got options, but no peace. Meanwhile, you'd become everything she was afraid you'd become, the man who doesn't need her anymore. That realization doesn't just hurt her, it humbles her, because for the first time, she understands what you tried to give her, something real in a world obsessed with temporary. And that's when the full circle completes. The man who once cried over her, now smiles without her. The woman who once felt desired, now feels forgotten. The same love that once broke you has now become your foundation, because the truth is, she didn't lose you when she walked away. She lost you when you stopped waiting, when you stopped explaining, when you stopped needing closure. You didn't get stronger to make her regret it. You got stronger because you finally remembered who you were before you met her. And now, as she watches from a distance, silent, nostalgic, and regretful, she sees it too. You became everything she ever wanted, right after she lost the right to have it. As the months roll on, her curiosity morphs into something darker, obsession disguised as reflection. It's no longer about wanting you back. It's about needing to understand why she can't stop thinking about you. She'll scroll through your old photos, replay your voice in her head, even stalk your new life under fake accounts. She won't admit it, but your detachment has become her addiction. It's ironic. She once ran from your presence, claiming she needed space, yet now she can't breathe without sneaking glimpses of your world. The man she once thought she could replace turned into the ghost she can't exorcise, because she's realizing that while she was chasing validation, you were building value, and value once lost is irreplaceable. She'll start comparing. Every man she meets will be held against the shadow of who you've become. They might have the looks, the money, the charm, but none of it feels real. None of it carries that quiet sense of safety she once took for granted. She'll remember how your words never had to be loud to be heard, how your attention never came from ego, how your affection never demanded repayment. Now, she's surrounded by men who perform love, not live it. And that's when it'll click. You weren't the problem. You were the piece she wasn't ready to handle. She didn't leave you because you lacked something. She left because she wasn't mature enough to hold what you offered. And that realization will sting more than any breakup ever could. You, on the other hand, have found a rhythm that no longer revolves around her. Your mornings are filled with purpose, your nights with clarity. You've stopped using your phone as a mirror for your worth. You've stopped waiting for anyone's response to validate your presence. You move differently now, measured, calm, unbothered. You laugh more, sleep deeper, and walk lighter. You've learned that peace is not a prize someone else gives you. It's a choice you protect. And with each passing day, your focus sharpens. You're no longer chasing pleasure, you're building fulfillment. The same man who once lost himself trying to be enough for someone else now stands fully in his power, complete on his own. And this new version of you, it intimidates people, especially her, because she remembers how accessible you once were, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You gave her the best parts of yourself freely, without caution. Now that door is locked, and behind it stands a man who learned the cost of overgiving. You've become selective, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You understand that not everyone deserves your vulnerability. Not everyone is capable of meeting you where you are. And that standard you now hold, that quiet refusal to lower your energy, will make her realize something profound. She didn't lose the old you, she created the new you. That's the part that will torment her the most, knowing that your evolution was born from her neglect. That the man who now commands respect, attention, and admiration from others was forged in the silence she left behind. She'll remember the version of you who waited for her to reply, who tried to understand her mixed signals, who tolerated her coldness. That version is gone now, and in his place stands a man who no longer tolerates emotional immaturity. The more she watches you succeed, the more she'll realize that she wasn't just another chapter in your story, she was the turning point. The reason you finally started writing your own script. And that's something she can't undo, can't rewrite, can't erase. She'll try to convince herself that she's happy now. She'll post pictures, write captions about growth and self-love. But deep down, she'll know the truth. She's not growing, she's running. Running from the mirror of what she lost. Because every time she sees a man who resembles you, the way he speaks, the way he moves, the way he carries himself, she'll feel that familiar ache. She'll remember how it felt to be understood without speaking, how rare it was to be seen beyond appearances, and that ache will whisper the truth she's trying to ignore. She didn't lose just a man, she lost her mirror, her grounding, her emotional compass. You were the calm in her chaos, and she'll never find that again. Meanwhile, you've stopped even thinking about closure. You've realized that closure doesn't come from apologies, it comes from acceptance. The day you stopped expecting her to understand your worth was the day you reclaimed your peace. You no longer need her validation or remorse, because now you understand that love without respect is poison, and attention without consistency is just noise. You've learned that emotional control is the ultimate power. That walking away doesn't mean losing, it means refusing to play a game that was never fair to begin with. And as you rise, your calm will start speaking for you. You'll no longer explain, you'll embody. And that quiet confidence will echo louder than any revenge ever could. Over time, she'll try one last time to come back. Not because she's ready, but because she can't stand being forgotten. Maybe she'll text. Maybe she'll reach out through mutual friends. Maybe she'll send a subtle message, masked as casual. But deep down, it won't be about love. It'll be about ego. She'll want to see if you still care, if she still holds power over you. And when she's met with your calm indifference, when she realizes her words no longer move you, that's when she'll finally understand the weight of her own choices. You didn't have to block her, insult her, or expose her. You just had to outgrow her. That's what truly destroys her. Knowing she lost a man who didn't have to destroy her to move on. And in that moment of realization, the roles will completely reverse. You'll be the one in control. Not because you wanted power, but because you reclaimed peace. She'll be the one overthinking now, wondering what you're doing, who you're with, what you feel. You'll be the one she can't figure out anymore. The mysterious calm that she used to misunderstand will now become the energy she craves. Because there's something deeply attractive about a man who no longer reacts, no longer explains, no longer needs approval. You've become that man, steady, grounded, content. And that's when she'll finally see the full picture. You didn't change for her, you changed because of her. And that's a difference she'll never be able to undo. Eventually she'll accept it, not out of peace, but defeat. She'll come to terms with the fact that you're gone for good, that you've built a life that no longer has her in it, that you're thriving in ways she only dreamed of. And maybe deep down, she'll wish she'd stayed long enough to see the man you became. But she didn't. She left when she thought you needed her most. And that's what makes your transformation poetic. Because you didn't just survive her absence, you became everything she never believed you could be. You didn't win by replacing her. You won by replacing the version of yourself that once begged for her love. And that victory, quiet and unannounced, will echo in her mind for years. You became everything she lost, and everything she'll never find again. As the dust settles, something strange begins to happen inside her. Not rage, not jealousy, but a quiet kind of sadness, the kind that lingers in the spaces between thoughts. It's no longer about wanting you back. It's about realizing how much of herself she lost trying to play games. She'll remember how she once felt powerful making you chase, how she once enjoyed watching you react. But now she'll see that those little victories cost her something much bigger. Your respect, your warmth, your essence. She'll scroll through old messages, reread your words, and see the difference between what was real and what was shallow. That realization will sting deeper than rejection ever could. Because losing someone who truly cared isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. It changes the way she looks at every man that comes after you. The irony of it all is that by the time she sees your value clearly, you'll be far beyond the point of proving it. You'll be too busy building a life that reflects everything you once hoped love would give you: stability, freedom, and purpose. You'll no longer look at relationships as validation, but as potential alignment. You'll recognize red flags before they become heartbreak. You'll speak less, observe more, and carry yourself like a man who's learned his worth through pain. People will feel it when you walk into a room, that quiet composure, that air of certainty that only comes from someone who's been broken and rebuilt himself piece by piece. That's what makes you magnetic now. Not charm, not looks, but grounded energy. She'll feel that energy too, even from afar. She'll sense it in your silence, see it in your growth, and hear about it from others. And every time your name is mentioned, she'll feel a small ache, like a ghost tugging at her conscience. She'll replay how things ended, and realize that the version of you she left behind doesn't exist anymore. You're not bitter, you're not hurt, you're not chasing, you're simply content. And that's something she can't compete with. Because peace is power, and she's still looking for it in people, while you found it within yourself. That's why your presence will always linger in her memory, not because of what you gave her, but because of what you became after she left. The truth is, you were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to rise. You were meant to learn that the pain she caused wasn't punishment, it was preparation. It taught you discernment. It sharpened your intuition. It showed you that love without respect is just attachment. And attachment without growth is just prison. You've broken free from both. Now, you love differently. You give differently. You no longer pour yourself into people who show cracks of inconsistency. You watch actions, not promises. You match energy, not words. And that shift, that new mindset, will make her realize how foolish she was to underestimate you. Because what she mistook for weakness was actually depth. What she called too emotional was empathy. What she thought was boring was stability. When she finally sees you again, maybe years later, you'll feel the full weight of time between you. She'll smile, maybe say hi, but behind that smile will be everything she never said. You'll see it in her eyes. That mix of nostalgia and regret, that flicker of realization that she's standing in front of a man who no longer needs her approval. You'll greet her with warmth, but not longing. You'll look at her the way you look at old photographs, grateful for the memory, detached from the past. Because by then, you'll have built something far stronger than any relationship, inner peace. She'll try to spark the old energy again, but it won't connect. Because your energy now operates on a frequency she can't reach anymore. That's what she'll never admit to anyone, that her strong woman act was just a cover for her own insecurity, that when you stopped reacting, it exposed her emotional immaturity, that your detachment wasn't cruelty, it was strength. You didn't play her games, you ended them. You didn't argue, you outgrew. And in doing so, you took away the one thing she relied on most: control. She'll never tell her friends how much your silence unnerved her, how much your peace made her question her own chaos, because to do so would mean admitting that the man she underestimated had more power over her heart than she ever had over yours. But you won't gloat, you won't seek revenge. You'll simply keep living, because real strength doesn't broadcast, it radiates. You'll start to realize that forgiveness isn't about excusing her behavior, but about freeing yourself from it. You'll stop seeing her as the one who got away, and start seeing her as the one who taught the lesson, and that shift changes everything. It frees you from resentment, it frees you from needing her to understand. You'll finally understand that sometimes people break good hearts because they haven't healed their own. And that truth will give you something far more powerful than closure. It will give you compassion. And while she's still caught between wanting to reach out and being too proud to, you'll be somewhere else entirely, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You'll be surrounded by people who match your energy, who respect your time, who speak peace instead of chaos. You'll look back at your past relationships, not with pain, but gratitude. Because every betrayal built boundaries, every rejection refined your focus, every heartbreak forced you to evolve, and in that evolution, you found something that no one can ever take away: self-respect. That's why she'll always remember you, not as the man who chased, but as the man who grew. Eventually, she'll come to understand that what she thought was freedom, leaving you, was actually a prison, because freedom without wisdom always leads back to the same pain. She'll try to replicate what you had, but it'll never feel the same, because what you offered wasn't just love, it was leadership, patience, stability, qualities that can't be faked. She'll start noticing how every relationship after you feels temporary, transactional, or emotionally shallow. And it'll hit her, not every man is a safe place. She had that once, and she lost it. Not because you failed her, but because she failed to recognize real love before it was gone. By now, you'll be so far removed from her world that her name will no longer trigger you. You'll hear it and feel nothing. Not pain, not longing, not hate, just peace. Because you finally learned what most men never do. That love doesn't mean attachment. That walking away isn't weakness. That your worth was never dependent on how someone treated you. You'll look at yourself in the mirror and see the man she couldn't appreciate. The man she tried to break, but ended up building. And as she watches you from afar, successful, composed, and untouchable, she'll realize what every woman eventually does. She didn't lose a man. She lost a man. The one who was willing to give her the world, until he learned he could build his own instead. As your peace settles in, it doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It arrives quietly, like sunrise after a long storm. You begin to realize that true strength was never about proving anything to anyone. It wasn't about making her regret or showing the world you could rise. It was about returning home to yourself. You've stopped seeking intensity disguised as love. You've stopped mistaking chaos for chemistry. What you want now is simplicity, a kind of love that doesn't drain but restores. You no longer feel the need to rush into connection because you finally understand that peace is more precious than companionship. You've outgrown the boy who needed her validation. You've become the man who validates himself by how grounded he remains, and that self-validation changes everything. It shifts how you move, how you talk, how you live. You no longer feel the pull to respond to every message or explain every choice. You understand that not every invitation deserves your presence, not every emotion deserves your reaction. You carry yourself differently now, not arrogant, but aware. People can sense it in your tone, in your stillness. You've mastered what few men ever do: restraint. The ability to stay calm when provoked, quiet when misunderstood, focused when tempted. That's what separates you from who you used to be. You no longer need to win arguments. You win by not participating in anything that costs your peace. And it's in that quiet restraint that women start to notice you differently. Not as the man they can play games with, but as the one they can't manipulate. They'll sense your stability, and it will both attract and intimidate them. You'll notice that women respect the man who doesn't chase, because deep down, they know chasing destroys polarity. You won't have to perform masculinity anymore. You'll simply be it. The calm tone, the slow movements, the measured replies, it all radiates confidence without saying a word, because you've learned something rare. When a man controls his emotions, he controls the entire interaction. And that realization gives you a kind of power no heartbreak could ever take away. She'll see that too, from afar. She'll realize that while she was trying to be seen, you learned to disappear. Not into darkness, but into discipline. You no longer pose to prove a point. You no longer seek validation through visibility. You've become the man who operates in silence and lets results speak. And that's the kind of transformation that humbles even the most prideful ex, because she'll understand something painful, that your glow-up wasn't just external, it was spiritual. You evolved beyond her reach. You stopped trying to heal through attention and started healing through purpose. And that kind of man, once he reaches peace, is untouchable, because he's not trying to be anything. He's already become it. And yet, despite her silence, she'll always carry the memory of you, not as the man she left, but as the man who taught her. You were her lesson in emotional accountability, her wake-up call, her mirror. You showed her what happens when you take something real and treat it like it's replaceable. You were the man who loved her without needing to possess her, who gave her the kind of attention that comes from depth, not desire. And though she'll never admit it, she'll compare every man after you to that. Because once a woman experiences love from a grounded man, her heart never beats the same again. You didn't just leave a mark, you rewrote her definition of love. But the beauty of your journey isn't that she regrets losing you, it's that you no longer need her to. You've transcended the stage where her remorse matters. Her guilt, her realizations, her nostalgia, they're not your closure anymore. Your closure came from understanding that not everyone who touches your heart deserves to stay there. That some people are meant to enter your life just to remind you how powerful you are without them. You've stopped looking at what you lost and started focusing on what you gained: self-awareness, strength, and purpose. You've learned to turn heartbreak into discipline, loneliness into clarity, silence into wisdom. That's what makes your story remarkable. Not the pain, but what you built from it. And in that wisdom, you'll find something you never expected: compassion. Not the naive kind that tolerates disrespect, but the grounded kind that understands pain. You'll stop resenting her because you'll realize she was only operating from her level of awareness. She couldn't love you properly because she hadn't learned to love herself. She couldn't value you because she didn't yet value stability. And instead of hating her for it, you'll thank her because she was the spark that forced you to evolve. You'll finally see that pain was never your enemy. Attachment was. And once you let go of that, everything else falls into place. That's when true peace arrives, not when you forget her, but when she no longer defines you. When your happiness is no longer conditional on anyone's presence or absence. You'll start to love differently now, slowly, intentionally, without losing yourself in the process. You'll stop chasing chemistry and start valuing compatibility. You'll stop craving attention and start respecting effort. The kind of woman you attract next won't need saving. She'll stand beside you as an equal, because that's what healed men do. They stop rescuing and start building, and that kind of love, built on clarity instead of confusion, feels divine. It's the kind of love that doesn't need noise to feel real. And as for her, she'll keep remembering you in phases, in moments of silence, in flashes of nostalgia, in those lonely nights when she wonders what might have been. But it won't matter anymore, because your story with her was never meant to end with reunion. It was meant to end with evolution. You were never meant to be her forever. You were meant to be her reminder. A reminder of what happens when you take something real and confuse it for ordinary. And that's her burden to carry, not yours. Your only duty now is to protect your peace, your purpose, and your standards. The 3 things you earned by losing her. So when she watches you become everything she lost, calm, successful, unbothered, grounded, she won't see arrogance. She'll see consequence. She'll see what it looks like when a man chooses growth over grief, silence over validation, purpose over pain. And you'll finally understand the truth: she didn't ruin your story. She completed her role in it. The heartbreak wasn't the end, it was the initiation. You had to lose her to find you. And now that you've found yourself, no woman can ever take that from you again. You've become what every man should strive to be: whole, steady, free. And that freedom, brother, is the quiet revenge that lasts a lifetime.